Well, we met at the biohacking conference last year. You gave a great talk there. And, before we go into all these things of biohacking, mold, environmental toxins that are disturbing so many people, I wanted you to just give us the backdrop of how you got into functional medicine and your backstory.
You got it. And I love starting here because story frames everything. And clearly for me, it was no different. I grew up on a farm in central Illinois, and so was probably well water and all kinds of things with organophosphates and pesticides and things like that, classical, central Illinois farming. But I had a mother, father who were very health conscious. We grew our own food, not all of it, but like we had a garden and kind of like open-minded to those kind of things to help us live well and thrive. And I never, ever in a million years really had the plan to go into medicine, but I knew that I was a healer at my heart. And I knew that I wanted to do something that would make a difference in the world. And I looked at all the different schools of therapy, physical therapy, and chiropractic and all the kinds of things. And I ended up choosing allopathic conventional medical doctor as a degree because I realized our system is still highly reimbursed by the system, at least in the US. And I wanted to actually infiltrate and make a change from within and start to move the needle. And I knew that the best place would be getting a great medical education and then taking that knowledge and kind of starting to shift and move and be open-minded to how do we really thrive in this toxic world. So that's my backstory. Kind of surprisingly got into medical school, was at Loyola in Chicago. And then my third year medical student, as a medical student, I found a lump in my breast. Didn't think anything of it, but within a couple of weeks, I got a call from the surgeon, and I found out I had a very aggressive breast cancer at 25 years old. So this was obviously shocking and not expected. And many people don't know this, but women in their 50s and 60s, we all know someone who's had breast cancer. It's incredibly common and increasingly so. But at 25, it's like a death sentence. I was one of a group of about 12 women under 40, and I'm the only one still living. So it just shows you how serious this was. And so I went at it very aggressively, and I was advised to do conventional chemotherapy, 3 drugs, 6 rounds, surgery, radiation, the whole works. So I was faced with knowing I wanted to live holistically, naturally, heal myself from within, all those good things. And then all of a sudden I have a life-threatening illness at 25, and am I going to live or die? And what's interesting is I took their advice. I did the conventional treatment, but what I did is I altered the course a little. I did chemotherapy in 2 days instead of 1. I did it timed so that it was less toxic. I did lots of things, and I took nutritional supplements. I did prayer, fasting, meditation, all the kinds of things there. And I pulled these 2 worlds together. And after 9 months of therapy, I was incredibly sick from the therapy, but I was considered in remission. And now it's been almost 20 years and I'm considered cured. So it worked. But what's interesting, Casper, that people don't tell you is the cancer was easy. Like that was easy to battle and get over. And by understanding what were the toxins, like you mentioned, cord blood, I grew up on a farm, I had well water. I actually believed to have a cancer at 25, I probably had in utero exposure in my mother's womb to toxic chemicals like atrazine and organophosphates. And I had a very poor detox genetics wise. And so this actually started to cause mutations on the DNA of my breast cells, probably at 5 or 10 years old, like decades before my cancer. So to me, it kind of makes sense that I grew up on a farm. I was very susceptible to that toxic effect, which is our conversation today. So my life passion is how do we understand the toxic load on our bodies and what it contributes to? So I got back into medical school. I'm 26. I'm finishing up my degree. I was bald from the chemo, but my spirit was still strong. And wouldn't you know it, 6 months later, I am in the hospital again, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Now, Crohn's is an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the gut lining. And you might think, how in the world you had breast cancer and then Crohn's? But the story makes perfect sense because one of the chemotherapeutic agents that I had actually pokes holes in the gut and causes a more permeable gut. And I also had a genetic predisposition towards Crohn's disease. And Crohn's is an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the gut lining, where you just mistake normal microbial contents for dangerous invaders. And then you start this cascade where the body starts to attack the gut lining. So it kind of makes sense because I poked holes in my gut with the chemo, and then the bacteria snuck into the bloodstream, caused an immune reaction. And 6 months later, I have Crohn's disease. Now, this is interesting because this is why I became a gut expert after the cancer, because I had to figure out how to heal myself. My doctor said, Jill, Crohn's is incurable. You're going to have this forever, lifelong. You're probably going to need multiple surgeries to resect parts of your bowels during your life. You're going to need steroids, probably immune modulating drugs, and get used to this. And I was like, no way. I didn't know a lot, but what I knew was like, this doesn't make sense. There's got to be a way to find root cause. And the last question I asked before I left his office was, Doctor, I don't know a lot, but does diet have anything to do with this? Could I change my diet? And he didn't even pause. And he said, Jill, diet has nothing to do with Crohn's disease. And again, even though I didn't know, my intuition knew this doesn't make sense. Food in the gut, like how could that not have something to do with it? Now, unbeknownst to me at 14, because of probably zinc deficiency and low stomach acid, I became a vegetarian, but I wasn't a very healthy vegetarian. So the decade preceding both cancer and Crohn's, I was more of a carbitarian. And I ate a lot of gluten and I was undiagnosed celiac. So now this picture is starting to make sense because I had gluten in my diet. I had a very poor, high sugar, high carb diet. I still thought I was eating healthy, but I really wasn't. And I lacked meat and protein in that sense that I probably could have used at that time. Cancer, Crohn's. And then what I did is I went on a search for diet and interventions, and I changed my diet, took out gluten, took out specific carbohydrates. And within 2 weeks, my symptoms were resolved. I didn't cure myself from Crohn's in 2 weeks. It took several years to address the gut microbiome. But what I learned in those experiences was like, wow, there's so much more than conventional medicine tells us. And diet does have a lot to do with, not even a lot, it has everything to do with autoimmunity. So that was my fast track education in the middle of medical school and part of my reason for my passion for root cause, functional medicine, and gut health.
Incredible story and so much to unpack there for me, but I'll do my best here because I truly believe that, the doctor of the future needs to be integrative and so that they need to be conventionally trained. Yeah. I've never knocked conventional doctors. They have a great understanding of many things, biophysical understanding, all acute things, but they need to go beyond that, go into the functional training, go into holistic training, go into diet, all those lifestyle, combine the two. And then you have a well-rounded practitioner that can start to address, like you did with yourself, root causes. And the fact you were able to get to your own root causes is amazing. And then start to build on that.